Hey everybody, welcome to the NEPA Scene Podcast, the only live streaming in-person arts and entertainment podcast covering northeastern Pennsylvania, offering a true alternative voice in local media. We're coming to you from the NEPA Scene studio underneath Center City Print in downtown Scranton. I'm Rich Howells, the founder and editor of NEPA Scene, and tonight we're here with Jinx, Leonard, and Alec Walker-Serrano from NEPA Stands Up, who are organizing the Queerquinox Music and Art Festival on Wilkes-Barre Public Square on Sunday, September 15th. We're going to talk about the local LGBTQ plus community, events that bring them together, and the small businesses that support them, creating Queerquinox and choosing the artists involved, what NEPA Stands Up does, and the importance of grassroots political activism, Jinx's book, Welcome to Second Puberty, and the stories behind the pages, and much, much more. So please stay tuned for the full hour. We would love to hear your thoughts, your comments, anything you want to add to the conversation down below. We'll get to those later on in the show. Before we dive in, just want to thank our sponsor, Center City Print, who's provided this amazing studio space for us. Use promo code NEPA Scene in person or online at Center City Print for 10% off. Center City Print can bring your ideas to life in 3 locations: Scranton, Kingston, and Hazleton. These one-stop shops are locally owned and operated, offering high-quality printed products, copy and custom print services, and design solutions to help you, your small business, your nonprofit, your band, your photography, your art project, or any venture thrive. Visit them now at centercityprint.com and use promo code NEPA Scene online or in person for 10% off. All right, so please start by telling us a little about yourselves.
Oh, you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. Why not? My name is Alec Walker-Serrano. I use he, they pronouns, and I am an organizer with NEPA Stands Up. So I'm the chair of their LGBTQ committee, and I started working with them like 2 years ago.
Hi, my name is Jinx, Leonard. I use she, they pronouns. I'm a transplant from Virginia. I moved up here in March of 2022. I'm a writer. I'm a volunteer for NEPA Stands Up, and I'm also the host and one of the main organizers for the Queerquinox.
I'm excited to talk about it. So how did you get involved with NEPA Stands Up? Were you into activism at all before that?
Funny story, no, I wasn't.
Okay.
So when I first moved up here, I was really struggling with like community and stuff like that. I was, didn't know anyone. I was homeless when I was living in Virginia during the height of the pandemic because I transitioned and then became homeless. Was struggling for finding stability, housing stability during a bad housing crisis. And then my best friend was just like, I'm leaving my husband and I'm taking you with me to Wilkes-Barre, PA. And I'm like, where's that? I was like, okay. And so I just packed up all my things and came here. And then for like a year and some change, I was really struggling to find community. And unfortunately, I found NEPA Stands Up through the Virgil of Nick Benedict, the indigenous kid that was brutally murdered. Yeah. And something just overcame me. Alec said, hey, does anyone want to say a couple words? And I just came up there, said a couple things, and I guess I moved the crowd because people came up to me and talked to me. But that's the funny thing is I didn't meet them there. I didn't meet like Alec and Holly there. I met them when 6 of my friends that I met in NEPA was just like, you should do the TDOV rally. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so I just said, I'll do some poems and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, Alec decided to put me as the closer. And so I was the closer. It was
No pressure.
No pressure or anything like that, right? And I was like, I gave the speech and all that stuff. And then Holly, being the charmer that she is, was just like, we should get coffee sometime. And I thought, oh, this lovely, attractive woman is hitting on me. And I was like, yeah. And then when we got coffee, the first thing she said to me is like, you should be a politician. You should work for NEPA Stands Up. And I was like, no. I was like, I felt lied to. But I decided to like do some like rallies, some festivals and stuff like that, because Holly was like, well, you can sell your book here. And I'm like, oh, you're right, I can sell my book. And then it became almost second nature to me. And and basically I was working like well in tune with Alec and also with Holly, like doing festivals, and like I think Holly herself was just like, do you have any ideas that you want to bring to the table? And at that moment, I didn't have any ideas, but then I met up with one of the bands that is going to perform at the Queerquinox Black Gardens, April's the lead singer. And we were talking, and she was just like, I kind of wish that there was like more places where we can play all kind of music that's not like censored through kind of like, no offense, but like with sponsorships you have to be like still ad friendly to that stuff, which is not fair. And I was just like, I can do that for you because I have a major crush on her. She's not gonna watch this. It's fine. I have like a major crush on her, and I was just like, yeah, I can totally do this for you. And so I talked to Holly, and I was just like, hey, I want to put together a music festival. And she was like, why? And I'm like, none of your business, but it's for a girl. And then she was like, okay. And so basically,
best reason to do anything.
Best reason to do anything. And so basically, Alec and Holly was just like, they just made the form, and I pretty much just reached out to everyone that I knew. And I was just like, hey, I'm doing this music and art festival. You should just be a part of it. They're like, this is cool. And so it signed up. We got like 5 people in like the first 3 days, and then it became 12 to 30, and like we got so overwhelmed that we had to like shut down the crafting vendor part of it because we just had too many people who were interested. Yeah.
Well, good problem to have.
Yeah, good problem to have, I say.
yeah, for sure. Myself, like I said, I started with NEPA Stands Up about like 2 years ago in the summer. It was actually sort of just by chance. I bumped into people on the street. It was shortly after Roe v. Wade wasn't overturned, but the leak happened that it was going to be overturned. And to say the least, I was pissed off. And
as anyone in their right mind should be.
Yes. And so I was looking to see if like anybody was doing rallies around here or anything like that. I had recently moved back to the area. I'm like from NEPA, but I was up in Binghamton. So I moved back. I was upset about that, and I was like, I don't see any rallies, so I guess I'm just gonna have one. My mom was an organizer for animal rights. My dad's a labor guy, so I've always kind of had that in me, but I never really like ventured to do it myself. And then I just was like, whatever, like let's just do it. There's no point in not doing it. So I did, with the help of my sister and some friends, and it just so happened to be at the exact same time as a March for Our Lives rally for gun violence. So I bumped into all of these amazing organizers. They heard me speak, and Holly came up to me afterwards and said, would you like a job? You are really, really good. We need canvassers for this End Solitary Confinement campaign. Do you want to work with us? And I was like, I'm unemployed. I would love a job. Yes, please. So I got thrown into that. I became like a lead canvasser. I just like dove headfirst in. I became the comms director on just like a volunteer basis. And then about a year in, I was feeling very down. Like, I'm a trans person. If you pay any attention to the news around anything queer related, you'll see that we're just under attack left and right. And it's really stressful. So I was just feeling like, you know what, NEPA Stands Up is great, but like we should have more of a stake in this kind of work because so many of us are queer, and this like affects us. It affects the people we love. It affects people in this community. And so I decided to start just the committee, the LGBTQ committee, which is just like a little subsection of NEPA Stands Up basically. And that kicked off with TDOV last year, and it was a hit. I thought nobody was going to show up. I planned it in like 2 weeks. It was rainy. The weather was terrible because it's NEPA.
Of course.
But people showed up and felt that sense of like community, and seeing just like a bunch of trans people together, feeling like I can express myself, I can be safe here, I like don't have to tiptoe around anybody, was just liberating, like, to say the least. Like, even talking about it now almost brings me to tears, because I had never felt that before. And so then we did another TDOV. I met this wonderful person sitting next to me, and we hit it off. And I just thought, this is an important person, like, with an important voice. And so, you know, when Jinx had the idea of, like, doing a festival, I was like, hell yeah, I'm all about that. Like, we've already kind of done 2 festivals for Trans Day of Visibility. Let's do another one.
Yeah, that's awesome. For those who maybe aren't familiar, what does NEPA Stands Up typically do? Like, what are the goals of the organization?
So we do progressive grassroots organizing, really with the focus on getting, you know, working class people across race, across gender, across ability, across age, all working class people together to fight for our future, really, to fight for a better Pennsylvania for all people. And that includes queer people. And so that's kind of just the vein that we're taking with this specific event. And we do a lot of work, obviously. We'll get into that. But yeah, we do grassroots organizing around all kinds of things. Like, we have housing campaigns. If you've ever heard of the Whole Home Repairs program, we helped move that and get it into the budget last year. And that helped people fix up their homes that, you know, didn't have the money to do so. So we do really all kinds of things just focused on, like, community building and making sure people have what they need and what they deserve.
So, you know, how do you convince people to get involved and volunteer their time? Because I know from personal experience how difficult it can be to recruit people to do even basic stuff. So, like, what you guys do, I really respect, because it's so much more difficult to get people involved in politics. They want to talk about politics, but actually making change in their community.
For me, I think it's about reminding people of the power they have. I think a lot of people feel like, I have no power, I'm one person, like, I'm disillusioned, and they don't realize they actually do have power. It just is like a small little chunk of their own power. And I think just trying to ignite that in people and help them recognize, I have that power too, and so does Jinx, and so does Rich, and, like, we all do in this room, and we can combine that to move. And showing people also, like, the tangible results of just the organizing that I've done, that we've done, I think helps too. You know, it can feel really abstract to say, like, oh, I have this idea of this thing I kind of want to do, but to actually be able to, like, see photos or see videos or see people on TV, and there's 50 people at an event, at a rally, saying, we want change for this, I think that's what drives people. So I try to, like, just get people to, like, feel empowered, but also, like, look at the change we've made in just such a short amount of time. We've moved so much work just in the time that I've joined NEPA Stands Up, and they moved so much work before I joined. So yeah.
I think for me, it's more of like, before I transitioned, I hated talking about politics, because it was always like such a big fracture in any kind of relationship, because if you disagree on someone, they'll be like, oh, well, you don't care about me. And so I always was just like, I thought I had the privilege to, like, not talk about politics, but unfortunately, I'm Black, and unfortunately, I'm trans. So politics will talk about me, even when I don't like to or not. And I think when I saw, like, just a bunch of, like, people who look like me getting just murdered by police brutality, by, like, bigotry and hatred, by the unfair justice in the world, and the people getting away scot-free with that, something in me was just like, I have to do something about that. And then when I transitioned, I was like, oh no, I definitely have to do something about that. Sure. Because it's not like, it's like one thing that's not, I wouldn't say obvious, but a lot of trans women, especially like Black trans women, POC trans women, like resort to sex work because no one would hire them. I mean, I resorted to sex work for a little bit until I got arrested because no one would hire me. So and so, like, even when I got arrested and when I got I think that's what really burned the fire, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna work with NEPA Stands Up because I liked the message that they were giving me, giving to the community and giving to the stuff, to the fact that they still look at me and they don't see like someone with a tarnished past or whatever.
Sure. Well, you know, the frustrating thing too that I see is that your lives are just constantly politicized for who you are. Like there's just no way around that. It seems like politicians kind of want to litigate every part of not only our lives, but especially micromanage trans people, the whole LGBTQ people in general. So I kind of would love your perspective on like how do you deal with that? Like, because you know, I can identify with it to an extent, but nowhere near what you hear on a regular basis. And then these things are just kind of thrown out into the news, and people just kind of talk very callously about these things and throw stuff out there, and you know, opinions and words and all kinds of things. And it's like I'm frustrated. I can't imagine how you feel.
It's a lot of patience, I say, because I know there's a bunch of my trans friends who go like, well, it's not my job to educate you, but I'm like, at this moment in time, especially with like how AI is like feeds on like user base to like get their information. No, it is our job to educate, even if we don't want to. Like for example, I work at a nudist resort in Palmerton, PA, where Palmerton is in bumfuck nowhere, and but like. I at first, when like the first 2 weeks when people were like asking me questions and all this stuff, I was bogged down, I was drained. I was just like, why do I have to answer this? But then I thought about it. I'm like, I'm probably the first trans person they would ever have met in their lives, and if I just told them, oh, look it up, what I'm not helping the cause, and it'll probably make my job so much harder. But because I remember with the Olympics going on with, I'm gonna butcher her name. What's her
Imani Khalif.
Yeah, Imani Khalif, and people were just like, oh, she has XY chromosomes and this, that, and the other, and they're like the whole saying of like trans people don't belong in sports. But the thing about trans kids, that's that you basically robbing them from a sense of having a community and stuff like that. And a lot of these things that people say, like when trans people don't belong in sports, are like, oh, you don't get it. You don't get the biological standby. Let me educate you. I used to be a 5'9" man with like strong muscle mass. I can like pick up like 2 boxes with my hand. Can't do that anymore. My feet shrunk 2.5 size, and I'm 5'4" now. So like people don't understand what HRT does. It really changes the body mass and stuff like that. So technically, trans people have to work extra hard to even keep up with their biological counterparts.
Yeah, I think for myself, like on a personal level, I cry a lot. Like I know that sounds like maybe silly or obvious or something, but because this is the work that I have dedicated myself to, I witness a lot of really harmful things that like they're harmful for me, they're harmful for anybody to see, whether they're I think trans or queer or not. I regularly see people, you know, talking about just casually like I hope all trans people die. And like that's a casual thing that people will just say all over the internet,
Sure.
along with tons of other things. And so it can be really difficult, and I try to allow myself to feel the grief of not just being seen as human first by a lot of people, because that hurts, and I can't like repress that. So I try to move through it, number one, and then number two, like Jinx is saying, then I try to educate. Like I try to really distinguish between who I think can listen and wants to have a conversation, even if they're extraordinarily ignorant and know nothing. Because I started there too. I didn't hear the word transgender until I was like 13, and then I was like, oh shit. So like everybody starts somewhere. Like I still am struggling sometimes with, new terms that I hear. Like queer people will say something and I'm like, wait, what? Can somebody explain that to me? And it's okay to not know something. It's okay to be ignorant. It's just not okay to be hateful. So I think most people aren't genuinely hateful. I think most people are just ignorant. We've all been raised in this society with really strict gender roles, really strict expectations.
For sure.
We're all put in boxes, and that's a bunch of bullshit. I want to be myself. I want you to be yourself. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of like allowing myself to feel, but then also like pushing through those feelings, working through them so that I can have the energy to educate people, because people do move, and I've seen it happen in my life. People who I thought would never come around, they did. And yeah, so I believe in people. I believe like love will actually help us overcome this.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. When, growing up, I'm 40 now, so I'm a little bit older. Growing up, it was very common to make fun of gay people, and that was a very common slur. If you showed any kind of weakness or anything like that, that's what the kids would go to and that sort of thing. And just in my lifetime, I kind of saw at least some, the majority of the public, at least when polled and things like that, start to move towards like, yeah, all the things that they were saying about these people, that they were coming for us and they were going to ruin our lives and change everything and change our whole way of life and ruin your kids and all this kind of stuff. And they're horrible predators and all kinds of things. All that stuff kind of, at least the public majority are just like, no, they didn't do any of that stuff. I think they're fine. I think we're okay. Like, and, as more people came out and stuff like that, it's like, well, yeah, now I have a gay son or a gay uncle or something like that, so people could relate in some way and realize that it wasn't this big threat. And the scary thing is that I'm watching it happen all over again with the trans stuff. It's the exact same arguments. It's the exact same out of left field conspiracy theories and things like that. The same kind of ignorant hatred start all over again. It's so frustrating to see. So it's really nice that we have organizations like yourselves that are actually, talking to people one-on-one. I think that's the main thing, is like once people realize it's like, yeah, these are everyday people. This is not a threat to you or your way of life or anything like that. Like that's crazy. And what you're doing is truly grassroots political activism. Like when I was younger, I'd want to get involved in something politically. When the Iraq War happened, I was out, protesting against Bush and all that kind of stuff. And I'm always, disappointed to kind of find it's just Democrats and Republicans and the same big donors that are behind them, supporting the same kind of two-party system that got us here in the first place. So, while your organization might endorse a Democratic candidate, you guys aren't specifically Democrats in general.
No, we're not a partisan organization. We're a progressive organization, so oftentimes the people we end up endorsing will run under a Democratic ticket. But like, I'll give you a really great example of someone we've endorsed, who is Fern. Fern is somebody that I know personally. Fern Leonard. She's running in, I believe, the 116th district. I'm so sorry if I messed that up. I love you, Fern. But I would trust her with my life. Like she is a real person who cares about the community, who understands what it is like to be a working class parent, to be a woman, and she may be running under the Democratic ticket, but like her values go beyond just what the party, line is. She is somebody who I believe in and I trust. And so, when we're talking about like the people that we endorse, it's always just like, it's not what party you are, it's what are your values. Are you going to fight for the community that you come from, or are you going to forget them? And that's really the difference.
Now, what do you think are the important issues that affect the LGBTQ community that people should be concerned about now? Not just because it's election season, but in general.
Honestly, I would say pretty much number one is like the question of, is gender affirming care for trans kids going to stay or go? In the fall, very soon, the Supreme Court's going to hear a case about that, and people generally, I think, understand where the Supreme Court is leaning towards. So it's not looking so hot in terms of what the outcome of that case is going to be, and that could have really, really devastating effects. Already, the legislation we're seeing has most of the devastating effects of the legislation that's anti-LGBTQ. It's anti-trans youth specific. They're at the forefront of all these attacks, and we're talking about kids who like want to cut their hair and just wear different clothes and be respected most of the time. And then
it's not asking much.
Yeah, it's not asking much. And then those who choose to, if they need to, seek medical assistance, like, that's between them and their parent and their doctor, who all care about that child's well-being. It's nobody's business. It's definitely not the government's business. That's for sure. Yeah. So I would say that's number one, because if that Supreme Court case doesn't go in favor of affirming the constitutional right to care, that could backslide us towards not having care for adults too. So I would say that, like, the access to care is really like the biggest number one thing. And then we could also talk about, healthcare is expensive. A lot of people don't have healthcare. Trans people are, disproportionately unemployed and uninsured. So, like, really, we're facing the same issues that other working class people are facing. They're just a little more, niche towards us. But, we don't have enough money. We don't have healthcare. We can't afford housing.
Hashtag relatable.
Yeah, hashtag relatable.
I just, to piggyback off that, gender affirming healthcare, because a lot of people tend to go like, well, like, trans women shouldn't have like estrogen and stuff like that. But I'm just like, yeah, if you stop with trans people, then it's going to stop with cis people as well. Like, there's gender affirming healthcare. It's not just for trans people, and I think that's a lot of people. I think a lot of people's closed-mindedness comes from a lot of people think that it's just for people who want to transition. I know like 10 people at my job who takes progesterone, who takes estrogen, because they went through menopause and stuff like that. But like, if let's say some bigotry, like pharmacist says, you're taking estrogen? Oh, what are you, not a real woman? And they're like 60 years old and they don't want to like shave their face anymore. And it's just like, it's the one saying that I say a lot, and a lot of people, some people tend to go like, well, that's not very true. But I really think, especially for like trans women, even for trans men, but like transphobia hurts all people. And especially POC, black cis women, because they have more of quote unquote manly features. For the longest time, it took a long time when I first transitioned, I was really like facing a lot of dysphoria, because a lot of my, unfortunately, even though I love them to pieces, a lot of my community is white people, and it was hard to like find connections and find relatable to like people who look like me. But then I had to like really sit down and like stare myself in the mirror and be like, I'm not white. I don't look like every white person out there. And when I started saying that, and I'm like looking myself in the mirror, I'm like, oh, I am feminine. I look feminine. I have features of a black, strong woman. And the more that I say that, the positive affirmation, I realize that I'm just happy being myself. It's great. It's great. It's a double-edged sword, because once again, love my community that I built here in NEPA. But at the same time, it's just like that same community that I feel like I'm ostracized through the black community, because a black community, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to like queer health, religion even, it always like, because I remember when I first transitioned, my mom was just like, you're going to make a fool of yourself and how you're going to be successful if you're trans. And I'm just like, I wrote a book. I'm putting together a music festival, and I like, Mom, if you're seeing this now, I don't know what to tell you, but it's just a strong, overwhelming positive emotion that I'm feeling, that I'm experiencing this gender euphoria like every single day of like, yeah, I'm bald, but I'm beautiful, you know? Rich, you don't understand what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there we go.
The sooner you accept it, the better.
Honestly, balding when I was 17 years old, I was like, that's like the first thing I did, just shaved off all my head, and I was just like, you know what, it's fine. I have to head for it.
I had a last gasp right before I became a reporter. I had a mohawk, and I was like, I'm going to walk into that office day one with that mohawk, and nobody is going to take me seriously as an interviewer. You know, they're all going to be like, who is this literal punk kid? So I was like, well, okay, that's got to go. So I shaved it, and I was like, well, yeah, I was already missing it back there anyway, so probably a good idea.
Yeah.
So let's talk. You mentioned the local LGBTQ community. I want to get into that a little bit. Is it small? Is it large? Is it organized? Is it all over the place? How would you describe it around here?
I'm gonna take this just because I grew up in NEPA, so I can at least speak to kind of like the shift. But when I was a kid, like I said, I didn't hear the word trans until I was like 13 years old, and like for reference, I'm 26. So mid 2000s, there was nothing, no information, and nothing in my community. There were no out kids. There was like one out kid in my school. Everything was just super hush. And I am very lucky to have had parents who were more open. And so, they were like, well, gay people are just people, like trans people are just people, it's fine. But a lot of people don't have that. And even my parents struggle to understand. So there was definitely just a lot of ignorance, a ton. And sort of like you were saying, like when you were a kid, there were people using slurs, there was a ton of that. Just a ton of ostracization if you fell outside the norm. So I was bullied a ton in high school, just to be frank. I had people calling me an it or a thing if I would try to dress in a way that was like, not feminine. So it was really difficult. And then I left. I went to university, Binghamton University, shout out. And it was like one of the first times I really felt safe. I went out to that campus and I was like, oh my God, nobody's like staring at me in a weird way. Like everybody's just doing their own thing. So I spent years there. It was amazing. And then I had to move back home. And when I moved back home in like 2022, I was not anticipating finding such a vibrant queer community. I had left thinking like there's no hope for anything like that, and then came back to find that people decided to make those spaces. But kind of bouncing off of what Jinx was saying, even though we've created these like beautiful queer spaces, they're not as accessible and affirming as they can and should be all the time to people of color, to people who are disabled, to immigrants. I think that as a community, we need to be thinking about intersectionality and about the fact that queer people are diverse amongst ourselves. So I'm really hoping that like we can kind of make that shift and like push that forward, because I'm really happy to see that there is a queer community here that's visible now, but I want to see like all of us be visible.
Sure. A united front, so to speak.
Yes, yeah.
And like I was just in Rehoboth Beach for a few days, and I don't know if you've ever been, but they have a very kind of openly supportive LGBTQ community. You see a lot of rainbow flags hanging in front of practically every business down there, especially near the beach. And are there a lot of businesses like that around here? There's some of maybe. You can maybe name some of the best or your favorite local businesses and places that you feel like support the community in an actual public way.
Yeah. I think once I got more comfortable being in NEPA, I was just like, I need to see what's out there. And so like some days I just be driving around, and like the ones I can like name off the top of my head, a Buy Coffee House over in over down in downtown Wilkes-Barre, or with a non-binary manager named Bunny. They are amazing. They host a poetry night every Saturday, every first Saturday of the month, and then they host a open mic every second Saturday of the month. Baltari is a wonderful wonderful bar arcade that's in Scranton that has a queer and feminist pinball league called Bells and Chimes that goes on. $20 to sign up, right? Is there doing a sign up thing?
Something like that. Yeah, they're doing, I think they're starting their league actually the 12th of September, if you're interested. Yeah, Bells and Chimes. They are like a woman-focused space, but open to anyone of any identity who's comfortable being in that space. So non-binary people and trans people are welcome and affirmed, and yeah, they've built like a really beautiful community there. I wish I was good at pinball. Maybe I'd go sometime, but I'm not.
Also, like, one, not like really a business, but like in kind of like a thing that that you had here like about like 20 episodes ago, Jackie from Poet Live. She is a wonderful supporter of like just everyone identity, and like we like a lot of queer people kind of took over that scene, and we're just like, hey, this is our thing now. You can be here if you want, but this is for us. And it's really great that because like my best friend, shout out Jay, who designed the cover of my book, love you Jay, but he was just like, I remember one time we were just walking around Wyoming Valley Mall, that poor mall, but
Of them all.
but he was just like, why is there so many fucking trans people around? Where did they all come from? And I'm like, they've always been here. They've been here, but they're just like, they're struggling. They don't have the privilege. And to go back a couple of questions that you asked, we just don't have the privilege to have fun. Like, our cis counterparts, we are focusing on, when are we going to get our next estrogen dose? When are we going to get our next testosterone dose? How am I going to pay my bills? Do I have to make another mutual aid post? It's like, that's what I went through before I found my job at SunnyRest. I was just like, how the fuck am I going to pay my bills and keep my car? Because I live in Wilkes-Barre, PA. There's no public transportation system here. And so it's sort of like not fair, but it's so beautiful to see, and like going to the vigil and people coming up to me, because a lot of people say that because I walk with myself with a lot of self-worth now, especially after my suicide attempt. I walk with a lot of self-worth and a lot of just care for myself. And so when people come, or kind of scared to come up to me, because I'm like, I don't hunch over, and I don't walk like I'm afraid to be attacked. And I think that's why I also don't get attacked, because I'm like I'm clockable. Clockable mean like you can tell someone is like not cis. I'm a clockable trans woman, but I'm also confident in what I stand by, and that's scary. That's scary to like a bigot, because you're gonna come up to me, okay. I like one of my because I got harassed at a gas station not too long ago, and I was holding on to my knife because it was like 2 a.m. at night, and this person was trying to walk up to me, and I call getting arrested a spiking blessing, because now I can just flick out my knife and be like, listen, I already got a charge. I'm not afraid to get another one. And they back up.
It's sad you have to go there.
It's sad. I wish I don't have to go there, but
right.
I mean, I'm a black trans woman from the South. There's nothing I can't do.
Well, I could tell you that Northeast PA is a lot of talk.
It's a lot of talk.
It's a lot of talk.
Yeah.
So, leaning into the local community, what kinds of shows and events are most popular for that crowd? You mentioned the Bells and Chimes, which is such a cool, unique thing in general, like a pinball league and stuff like that. Because you always hear, especially again, being politicized drag shows, which are great, and they're certainly a big part of that community, and local nightclubs like Heat and stuff like that, which are great. I'm sure you could talk about that, but is there any other stuff too that draws that community in or highlights that community?
Yeah, so like not a business, but an organization that we collaborate with, Queer NEPA. They do a lot of like arts and crafts, hiking, book club type like stuff. So like a lot of like free activities or like almost free activities, which I think is great because like we're talking about, a lot of queer people are also very cash poor. We don't have a lot of like expendable income to do fun things. So like, you know, it's great to go to Heat and get a bunch of drinks and spend $50. But like, if I don't have $50, I still want to see my gay people. Like I literally, it's so funny. I was talking to Holly, who is our organizing director, and also just like my partner. And I'm like, I am so deprived of queer people because I am in Binghamton. Not that there's not a queer community there, but I don't know a lot of people in the community, so it's kind of just me. And I'm like, I just need to be surrounded by my people to like recharge. But I don't always have the money to spend, and I don't always want to drink, and not everybody does. So I really like Queer NEPA for like creating that space of like, we can do fun things that don't require a ton of money or like any drugs or alcohol. I love that. So yeah, I just want to like give them a shout out for creating those spaces without being a business. But
I definitely like. They're not in NEPA. They're over in Lehigh Valley, but you know that's like neighboring over. I actually want to give out a shout out to Robin Glow. He's him and I think his fiance are strong. Like strong pillars in that community. They like do poetry, like workshops and stuff like that. They are just, I think they opened up a building for like mutual aid and whatnot, and they're having their first kind of like gathering kind of thing called, I think it's called Fruits and Boots. So it's like a queer hoedown, because yeah, there's like gay cowboys out there, but you can't go to a place to learn line dancing because you're gonna get harassed. So they're doing that September 13th, and they're actually they're vendoing at the Queerquinox too. And so it's just, I know that like this is like supposed to be like, you know, NEPA, but at the same time, it's not just NEPA, it's all Pennsylvania. It's all America. It's all stuff, because communities doesn't stop at just one place. We're everywhere. And like, I remember I like maybe be a little bit too much. I went to a hookup in the middle of nowhere, and it was just like, we didn't even hook up because she was crying because she was like, I'm just so happy to see someone else. I thought I was all alone, because they lived in bumfuck PA in the middle of nowhere. And I like, it broke my heart, because I'm just like, it's like nothing's like accessible, like, because we're short of funds. If you don't have a car, you're kind of like stranded. You have to like hope for the good graces of someone else to even have a place to find home. And I think that's why people are like, I wouldn't want to say people are leaving, but Levi said something beautiful during the Polly Likings vigil. It's just like, why should you care about why would anyone care about NEPA? Why don't you just move? And then they said, well, someone might fall in love with NEPA. I honestly kind of fell in love with NEPA after meeting Alec and Holly and all these people who looked up to me and saying that you're doing amazing work. I'm just like, listen, I'm selfish. I put this musical festival so a girl can notice me. But it became so much more than that, because I remember when I got arrested, it was like Alec, Holly, Robin, all these people were sharing my GoFundMe to just take care of a $1,200 fine. Like, from, not because the fine was $25, but you had to pay for the booking, you had to pay for the gun handling and all this other stuff, and it equaled up to $1,200. And I was like, I don't have the money for that. I was doing sex work. Of course I don't have the money for that. And so like, but they all came together, and they shared it, and I got it done within a week, and I paid it off right then and there. And the whole time I was just like, how the hell can I give back to the community that pretty much saved me from another suicide attempt? And I first I was just like, when we got like 12 vendors and then 30, it came to the realization, I'm like, this is fucking how I can organize a fucking music festival for arts and craft, for bands, so they can, perform and people can know who they are.
Like it's whenever I see like people who come to the open mic, we have a very diverse crowd without having to use the word diversity, and I feel like that kind of stuff is can sometimes be like, hey, look at me guys, we're being diverse, we're and it's very forced, or it's just very like, hey, look at what a good person I am because I'm bringing all these people in. I always felt like you need to make a space, a community where everybody just is treated exactly the same and feels welcome and able to express themselves. And if somebody else doesn't really respect that expression, they need to be pulled aside and be like, hey, we let you get up there and do your thing. You let them do their thing. And we really don't have those kinds of issues, really, for the most part. Every once in a while we get a heckler because they don't like the comedians. The comedians will tell certain offensive jokes that they might not like. That's probably the most trouble we have at the mic. But we get a great LGBTQ crowd that, comes in and out of the mic all the time. And it, kind of triggered in my mind like, oh yeah, there's so many of these artists that are probably not being highlighted in some way, or might have trouble finding spaces that allow them to just get up and do like whatever they want and say what they want and stuff like that. I'm very, very much about having free speech, and if the comedians want to say something terribly offensive that I absolutely disagree with, I'm going to defend their right to do it.
And if they get beat up at the parking lot, that's
yeah, exactly. That's on them. Yeah,
that's on them.
That's I'm out of there by that point.
Yeah.
But speaking to that, what you're doing, I think, is great because you're really highlighting that these artists are here and they're doing things that may encourage more to of these types of events to happen. I see like. Jess Mione does Burning Roses that really focuses on, female artists and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, that is so needed, because there are many of them, but they're very spread out. When you bring them all together, though, it really does make an impact and make a difference.
Yeah.
And, it reminds people, oh, yeah, this community is here and they're doing really cool stuff.
Yeah. Shout out to like one of my New Year's resolution this year is to go see more music shows. And shout out to Jared's house. Just a man who has a house, and he was just like, yeah, play shows at my basement. And that's where I met the band Pollen, who's also going to be performing at the Queerquinox. And they're just like this four band group, and they're just so, like, their vibe is so warm and welcoming, and they're just all dudes, but they're like scream allyship because they were talking to me, and they're like I was just another person, nothing weird about that. And I was just like, that's when I also met like two of the members from Love Lab. I met a tattoo artist, unfortunately, who had to like drop out at the last moment, but she does like a really Lucy, follow Lucy on Instagram. She does a really like unique design style of like 1950s pinup of just different types of art like that. And it was just like, I was like, wow, look at all these talented people. Why the fuck aren't they giving a shot? And I remember, I think the thing that really like drove me home to the point where I'm gonna make this happen, I went to Good Things Are Happening, and amazing festival, great, but I was also talking to a lot of the vendors, and I was just like, hey, none of my fucking business, but how much did you make? They're like, I didn't even make back a vendorship. And I was just like, that's really unfortunate. And I was just like, all these people, they paid like $75 to like $100 for just a chance to show their art. And people were just walking by it. And I was like, I don't think that's fair for them, But that's why I think I was really like driving home. I'm like, no, you're coming to my festival. And I'm like, we're going to make sure you don't pay and you can get a chance to make some kind of money.
Sure. And it's free to attend.
Yes, yes.
And, it's on Wilkes-Barre Public Square.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is, let's see. I'll read it off. The Queerquinox Music and Art Festival will feature 5 bands and over 20 creative vendors on Wilkes-Barre Public Square, Sunday, September 15th from noon to 5. Tell us about how you put together the whole lineup. You said you met Pollen through, some of these house shows. How did you put together the rest of the lineup?
I think, oh my God, how did I do it?
So we kind of just, we already knew Black Gardens. We both knew April. I knew Marina from Shutaman. And then M. Craig is also in circles. So we're all just kind of in each other's circles. I think there's a lot of it.
Okay.
And then Love Lab, Josh is their lead singer, and I believe he's also doing guitar. But we were canvassers together. That's End Solitary Confinement campaign, and most of that band is People's Guild. Who they are a mutual aid project in Wilkes-Barre. They do incredible work for the houseless community. And so I love their vibe just because their name's Love Lab. It kind of says it all. It's just and that's
Right.
what it feels like when I'm listening to them, when I'm around them, is these are people who are doing the same kind of work we do, where they care about the people in their community and they're organizing, and also they like to play music together. And I just love that. So definitely excited to see them, and shout out to People's Guild. Definitely give them a follow. Check out their work because they're doing really important things.
So this being the first one, what can people expect as they kind of walk around? At least how you're envisioning it.
Oh God. Okay. So what I'm envisioning, me running around with my head in my hand because I'm just
Sure.
this is,
of course.
This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. Yeah. And I've done I emceed a town show, but that's a town show in high school. And so actually organizing, I kind of want to give James Barrett his congratulations, because he's done this 3 years in a row, and I was just this is insane. I'm scared shitless. But I feel like it's just gonna be a lot of uncensored uncensored queer art, because that's one thing. Even when in my 2 decades of writing, when I finally unlocked when I transitioned, that I was just censoring myself prematurely, because I'm just people are not gonna like what I write if I write my truth. So I was just let me censor myself. And then when I transitioned, I was fuck what other people think. And that's what I kind of want other people to do as well. Just fuck what people think about what your art. Yeah. There's one vendor I met who's going to be there, Art by Melanie, who I met at my job, because my job also does a little kind of vendor thing for during the middle of July. And I was just the one thing I saw was just she's a white woman, but she also draws these wonderful black features, watercolor painting of wonderful black features. And I was just I want you at my music festival. Yeah. And there was someone who found me during the Pride Fest and was just who saw my book, and I was oh, I saw this at South Street Art Mart in Philly. So shout out to South Street Art Mart for me hosting my book. That's rad. But and they gave me their business card, and they make these handcraft zines from scratch and all that stuff. And I saw a short on how they were making it, and I was just this is amazing. So it's just gonna be tons of that. People 20 plus vendors of people putting their hearts and souls into their craft. And I think that's so beautiful. I think because I'm a writer. I tried doing painting. I tried doing crafts and all that stuff, but I don't have the talent. I don't have a musical bone in my body. So I was just to see people do things that I can't do is amazing, because I feel like I'm amazing. So if I see things that people can do that I can't do, I just want to give them a chance to show their work to people.
That's one of the things I love about the open mic, is being able to see people feel comfortable enough to be themselves and express themselves. It makes me feel like, oh, I did something right here.
Yeah.
And like I, accomplish my mission, that people feel comfortable enough to just be themselves, talk about themselves, open up about whatever they want to open up about, whether it's through, writing and poetry or music or, what have you. I want to talk about the book specifically, and I'll put the cover up here for on the screen so that people can get a closer look of the excellent artwork there.
Oh, thanks. Shout out Jay. Lovesick Hospital. I also want to just give a shout out because he's a big fan of like Hassan and Miku. He's actually working with a Malaysian studio from the ground up, and he's the art designer for oh my god, he's gonna kill me. Makoto Studio. I got it. Makoto Studio. And like he's like the artist for that, and he's like doing the ground up work for that. He's also, follow him on Lovesick Hospital. He's a talented artist, and I'm so proud of him. He's doing the damn thing. But yeah, I wrote Welcome to Second Puberty when I was homeless. Well, the majority of it when I was homeless. I was like still struggling with my gender and stuff like that, and then I started taking hormones, and I just ended up writing a lot more. I was like writing more poetry of like just the comeuppance of what I was experiencing everyday life and whatnot. And I was just like, I think honestly it was the thing that was keeping me sane. I was just like, I'm not crazy for feeling this way. Because there was some times I was just like, why did I transition during the pandemic of all things? I was just like, I could have just waited. I could have not have done it. But I'm so glad that I did, because I get emotional because I was just like, I always, for the longest time, was been fighting for my like identity. Even before I was transitioned, I was fighting my identity to be in my own community of being Black, because my mom raised me as like a proper person. So I didn't talk Black or anything like that, which is just, stupid. AAVE is what TikTok slang is, but they try to like culturally poach it anytime they get. But Welcome to Second Puberty, I was like working on it for 2 years. And then when I first got to NEPA, I was trying so hard to get it published through a publisher. I was like, I want to do this legit. I'm really proud of the work. But everywhere I went, people were just like, I don't think in this climate right now, I don't think it's going to be good. I don't think it's going to sell. And I was just like, I already have an editor. I already had, shout out to Fate, who edited my book, because holy shit, I have bad grammar.
It's also incredibly hard to edit yourself.
I know. Yeah. But it was just that, and it was also like, they were like, people, I actually had a contract for one of them, and they just ghosted me when I was ready to sign the contract. And I got to the point where it's just like, I'll just do it myself. So I self-published it through Amazon KDP. And I put it out there, and I was just like, oh, this is not going to like sell at all. And because, fun fact, this is actually not the first book I wrote. I actually wrote a book back in 2018 when I dropped out of college, because I was like, college is a scam. But I was like, I have to do something with my life. So I just published something, but I wasn't proud of it. And so I was just like, even now I think about it, I'm just like, there's like one, maybe 3 poems in there. I'm just like, oh, that's a hit. That's a banger. But this one, I'm just like so proud of it. And I was just like, I published it through Amazon KDP, and then like part of me, I was like doing the whole business transaction part of it. I was just like, oh, queer people are not gonna buy this from fucking Amazon because it's fucking Amazon. And so I was just like, I had to come up with a way to get this into other places. And so I've just been going through, I went to open mics, And I started like, hey, I have a book. I have copies in my hand. You can buy them directly from me, and Amazon doesn't get a penny out of it. I was I went to different bookstores and all this stuff. Once again, shout out to South Street Art Mart for the first people, because I was just like, hey, I have a book that I want to sell. Can I sell it here? And without even batting an eye, they looked at me and was just like, fuck yeah. I was like, do you want to read it first? No. And so I gave them a copy, and Nicole, they're both named Nicole, but Nicole, she messaged me and she was just like, I am proud to sell this at my shop. And it just warmed my heart. And I was just like, because when I was first trying to generate hype to like sell this book, I was like on Facebook groups, I was making memes about it, I was like doing all this stuff to like different Facebook groups, like, hey, I wrote a book, and everyone was just like, but Amazon, and I'm like, yeah, but Amazon. And I think I was also talking to the Nicoles about it, because they was just saying like, it's definitely like a privilege that some people have. They're like, well, and they eased my mind with it. They're like, well, not everyone has a queer bookstore or a queer thing in the middle of like Tennessee or something like that.
Sure.
But they have Amazon. They can buy it from Amazon. And I think that's beautiful. And I really think it solidified like me writing it. And after I just finished watching, like not too long ago, The People's Joker, a trans coming of age story featuring using like the Batman IP, and also
I remember seeing something about that.
Yeah.
Where'd you watch it? Because I need to see that.
It's on streaming right now. Well, that's not I lie. It's not on streaming. It's like you can buy the DVD on Amazon, or you can like rent it through like everything.
Okay.
It's a really good coming of age story. And then I saw the TV Glow, made by a trans director as well. And that was just basically just the duality of like repressing or expressing your identity. And watching both those movies back to back really solidified me as, a trans creator. I was just like, this is something that is needed in the world. And I felt so proud of, being able to do that. I'm actually... I've kind of on the verge of writing a second book, which is sort of like a sequel to this one, because like one of the biggest complaints I got was, it's not enough. I want more. And I'm like, okay. And so I was just like, I'm just going to write more. And I was like, I got a burst of energy when I lost a poetry contest that happened in NEPA. And I was just like, but maybe it's self-conceited of me to say, self-centered, but I was like, but I have a published book. I'm good. but I was just like, I was like, instead of like taking that anger and like directing towards like the people who are hosting this poetry contest, I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna do something constructive with it. And I like already have 60 poems already done, ready to go.
60?
60.
Jeez.
And I have like 7 more. I want to do 7 short stories, and I want to give trans people, and not even trans people, but people, literature and media that they can relate to. And I think that's like one of the best comments I got from like this from cis people. A lot of cis people who have not met me was just like, this is not just a story about transhood, this is a story about womanhood in general. And like the people who have met me, they're like, I feel like I understand you way more now than I ever have. And I think that warms my heart, because I always had a problem expressing myself when I was younger. And I was just like, just to hear people say that they feel my words through this makes me so proud of me. And I think for the first time in my life, and I just want to keep on doing that, not just for me, once again through the Queerquinox. I'm just like, because I have art. I already have art from like the festivals and from other places where I shop at, like South Street. And I was just like, there's so much beauty that gets censored, and there's so much beauty that gets censored, and this, like, if that can speak to me, I'm pretty sure it can speak to other people as well.
is it difficult to put these kinds of, really deeply personal thoughts, feelings, stories, of your life out there for anybody to see? Is that nerve-wracking? Is that freeing? How does that, how do you look at it now that it's out there in the world?
It's a little bit of both because, I'm a black trans woman. I'm easy pickings for any hate group to come and raid me. Unfortunately, this is something that trans people have to do, like on Facebook, any kind of social media. There's actual groups of people who share trans people's posts and be like, hey, look at this fucking tranny. And they raid their post and like do laugh reacts and like comment on them, say like stupid jokes like 42%. And I was just like, yeah, it's nerve-wracking. It's also, I have exes who hate my fucking guts when I was cis. I'm sorry, exes. That doesn't have nothing to do with me. I was cis at the time. I'm different now. But it's really nerve-wracking because I remember when I was like, I had a timeline because I was like doing the final edits. Well, the ones that my editor gave me, and I had a timeline. I had like 2 hours before it went live, and I was just like, I want this to be perfect. It has to be perfect. And I like stopped and I sent it out, and I was just pacing back and forth in my like house, and I was just like, I didn't even care if it didn't sell. Because I remember I had this crush on this one person back in like 2018, and I gave them my old book. I was just like, hey, I wrote this book. I'm going to give it to you. And the first thing they said after reading it, they're like, the grammar sucks. This is not really good. And I'm like, fuck. And so so that was like one of the things. I was just like, what if I put this out and people don't look past the technicality and don't see the raw emotions upon it. Yeah. And then after I got that, and then the anxiety of, oh, what is it they look at this and just like, oh, but this is not how I see my transness and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's scary. It's still nerve-wracking because it's been the 8th month. September 1st was the 8th month anniversary I had it out. And I have as a self-published author in a short amount of time, 250 books of my books is in someone's hands. And I've changed 250 people's lives. And I feel grateful to even do that.
That's awesome. That's great. So people can get this through Amazon,
but I want you to you can either get it through me directly at festivals if you see me around. Yeah. You can get me through South Street Art Mart, which is owned by 2 amazing queer women who does a lot for the queer community in Philly. You can get it there. They ship it to you directly, ship it worldwide. So you can do that as well. You can even get it at Firefly Bookstore over in Kutztown as well. Either way, Amazon. Amazon, that could be last. Honestly, fuck Amazon. Yeah. But hey, if you want to get it through Amazon because you have that Prime, good for you. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
I ain't gonna stop you.
So what's next for you personally and for NEPA Stands Up? We have the Queerquinox is coming up on Sunday, September 15th, noon to 5. What's next on the agenda?
So for NEPA Stands Up and the LGBTQ committee in particular, we're doing a workshop. So that is going to be, it's called Organizing for Equity. It's going to be on Saturday, October 5th. Location still to be determined, but in northeastern Pennsylvania, from 11 to 4. Brekkie and lunch included, so it's free. I mean, come on. Right. And what we're going to be doing there is basically doing like baby's first organizing training, and really just trying to encourage, like, whether you're young or old, like, doesn't matter. If you're just new to organizing, but you care about, the queer community, that there's something wrong, but you don't understand exactly what is wrong and how to deal with it, this is for you. That's really the purpose. So we're going to be talking about like legislative trends, really breaking those down. What do bills that are anti-LGBTQ, what do they actually do? Like, how do they impact people? And then what are our strategies? Like, what do we do to combat that, you know, whether it be through rallies or coalition building and things like that. So we're just kind of like dipping our toes in for new people of like, this is what the United States looks like right now in terms of rights for queer people. And this is what we want it to look like, and this is how we're going to make that happen, and how we're going to empower you to help us make that happen. Because we know we can't do it alone. This is about community. And also, to be frank, I say this all the time, I'm sick of hearing myself talk. I was like comms director, and now I'm the chair of this committee, and I have a background in public speaking, so I'm just like naturally kind of the person to get asked to do things. But I'm sick of the sound of my own voice, and I want to hear other queer people. I want to hear what other people in this community have to say. I want to hear their voices. This is why I love Jinx so much, because Jinx is somebody who is so outspoken, and we need that. We need people to tell their stories and to express their righteous anger and stuff like that. So yeah, we're going to be doing that. And then we also have monthly committee meetings. So the third Monday of every month, it's on Zoom. You don't have to wear pants. You don't have to put your camera on. Super easy. But yeah, we just, once a month, we talk about the work we're doing, what's coming up, what we might do next. I know, like, post-workshop, we're going to be planning for next year's TDOV, which I'm hoping will be the biggest yet. So stay tuned for that. And we're also in the works of trying to put together a political education book club that's, like, queer-focused. Because I love Queer NEPA, and they have like a really cool book club, but it's mostly like fiction, and I am very autistic, and I do not like reading fiction. I like reading real things, and I know a lot of people could use some good information to like help them navigate the world today, especially as a queer person, especially when we're talking politics. So be on the lookout for that too. Queer Political Education Book Club. It's going to be starting sometime early in like the new year, probably around January. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Lots of good nerdy stuff.
Yeah, I love to read, man.
So how can people get involved? If any of this sounds interesting, you know, how can people get in touch and get directly involved in the stuff that you guys are doing?
So we have a Facebook and an Instagram. At NEPA Stands Up. You can shoot us a DM. It'll probably be me answering you, to be quite frank. So you could do that. We also have an email if you feel like writing us like a longer message. It's info@nepastandsup.org. So those things, definitely give us a follow on socials though, because that's where we're most active. We'll let you know exactly what's going on. And come to Queerquinox. I mean, like, hello, it's free. It's gonna be dope. So yeah, come to Queerquinox, say hi to us. If you see me on the street, you can literally stop me and say hi. I've had people do that because I'm on the news sometimes. It's actually very nerve-wracking, but sometimes people do stop me and they're like, I saw you on the news. I heard you on the radio. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I will talk to you. So, because I'm an organizer, and even though I'm introverted by nature, I love my community. And having those conversations is important. So yeah, follow us. Like, stop us and just be like, hey, we're all pretty chill people. And definitely, yeah, sign up for our workshop. There is a really nice tool for those who don't know. It's called Mobilize, so mobilize.us, and you can find all kinds of, like, progressive organizing stuff on there. So Pennsylvania Stands Up, which is, like, the mama. And then we've got NEPA Stands Up, the little baby, amongst the other chapters. But you're going to find, like, all the events that we do on there. So that's also a really great place to see what we're doing and what other orgs in the area are doing, too.
Nice. Well, you know, let me put the flyer up on the screen so people can check that. I think there's a QR code.
Please enjoy. I spent so many hours on it. I did have help. Shout out to Christina, who helped with the initial, like, design. We had some technical difficulties, so we had to, like, recreate it. But I hope you like it, because I'm not a graphic designer, and I worked really hard on it.
Graphic design is your prison.
It is my prison. I just end up being the one to do it. It's totally fine. I'm learning new skills. That's another great part of organizing, is, like, you learn all kinds of new, like, random things. I never in my life, I am not artistic at all. I need to make that very clear. I'm a musician, I'm not artistic at all. Never in my life thought I would be like doing graphic design and actually enjoying it.
I made a reel for the first time promoting Queerquinox, trying to get like the call of like people. I'd done it twice and I was just like, holy shit, this is actually fun. No wonder people quit their jobs to become TikTokers.
It's so real.
Yeah.
It's so real. I'm also like not a like I'm a Facebook person, but just to like shitpost and share memes mostly.
Yeah.
And then I had to learn how to like use social media for an organization and like make reels. Oh my god, like 2 hours of takes because just any word being wrong.
Boy.
I'm like, no, it has to be perfect.
It has to be perfect.
Yeah, the things I do for organizing, but I love it because this is important work. And yeah.
Awesome. Anything else we want to mention before we sign off for the night?
I just want to like shout out to all the vendors that you're probably gonna see. Trippy Hippie, the ones I'm wearing my earrings from, they're pretty rad. I like them. Got Florence, who's like a wonderful poet and who does like organizing. There we go. Through like a lot of the poetry scene that's from Lehigh Valley. They're gonna come down. Chris, Art by Malene, Paulin, Black Gardens, Love Lab as well. We just like there's talent. There's a lot of talent in PA, and I'm so blessed that I'm gonna have 20 plus vendors of just in Wilkes-Barre, and I feel like this is an amazing accomplishment, and I can't wait for everyone to come there because you got it. It's free. What are you doing?
Yeah. And it's open to everybody.
It's open to everybody.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, because Holly will beat my butt if I don't say it, we are a people-powered org. I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid. We do have some paid staff, but by and large, it's just people on the ground who care about our community, and we want to see a better Pennsylvania, better northeastern Pennsylvania, and that requires money. So if you are able to become a sustaining member, I really want to encourage you to do so. I'm somebody who, I'm very critical of where I'm going to put my money for an organization, but I believe, because I know where the money goes. I know it goes towards doing this festival, getting people down to Harrisburg for like lobby days, like really important things like prepping rallies, getting stuff for signs so that we can, have our voices heard. But we need you. So yeah, if you want to become a sustaining member, you can go to NEPAStandsup.org. You can give as little as $1 a month. Literally any little bit helps. Cause we need all the help we can get. And if you're somebody who's just like, I don't have time, but I can give you $5. I love it. Give me the $5. Appreciate it. Have fun with your time.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. This was a lot of fun and educational as well. So the Queerquinox Music and Art Festival will feature 5 bands and over 20 creative vendors on Wilkes-Barre Public Square Sunday, September 15th. From noon to 5 p.m. Admission is free, so come out and enjoy the day. We appreciate you coming on, and we'll hopefully be here next Wednesday is usually our day. This week I'm all kind of mixed up. We recorded a session yesterday, an acoustic session that you'll see next week yesterday, so we had the podcast today. Hopefully we'll see you here next Wednesday. 7 to 8. If you want to add any little bit to the conversation, you can still leave your comments and stuff down below. There's a lot of nice emojis and highs. And
Hi.
I'll put some up on the screen real fast. There we go. But so yeah, add your emojis, whatever you like. Thanks so much, and we'll see you here next week. Thanks for tuning in to the NEPA Scene Podcast. Have a good night.